are these people?
So let's get into it. So yeah, as I said earlier, this story surprisingly went way under the radar over the weekend. And again, thanks to Twitter, people that we know on Twitter brought this story to our attention. But I actually, this kind of makes sense in terms talking about this in terms of what happened with the World Central Kitchen workers on Monday. You guys, as I said, you guys are smart. You'll be able to make the connection. But we're going to feature our friend to the show, Brett Wilkins. We're going to hear from him a lot tonight. I think we have 2, maybe 3 articles from 2 articles from him.
Yeah,
2 from him tonight. So he writes, obscene. Biden quietly okays more 2,000-pound bombs, warplanes for Israel. Arming a war criminal makes you a war criminal, one critic admonished the U.S. president. So Brett continues, despite growing worldwide calls for an arms embargo, the Biden administration in recent days has improved the transfer of billions of dollars worth of new weapons shipments to Israel, including warplanes and 2,000-pound bombs that have been dropped on densely populated areas of Gaza with devastating results. The Washington Post reported Friday that the administration has quietly authorized arms shipments, including more than 1,800 Mk-84 2,000-pound bombs and 500 Mk-82 500-pound bombs, as well as 25 F-35A fighter jets and engines worth approximately $2.5 billion.
Jesus.
Play the clip.
Getting it.
Thank you, Dr. Evil.
Yep.
The transfers are the latest of more than 100 arms shipments authorized by the Biden administration since the October 7th attacks on Israel. So this is Youssef Munanir, who tweeted quietly in response to how Biden basically sent the shipment.
Yeah.
This is cowardly from the administration. If you're going to be full backers of genocide, own it. We see you, and history sees you as well. So Brad continues. Actually, he continues. It is scary to think of the world U.S. support for Israel is creating. A world with no rules, no limits in war, where norms don't exist, and where genocide is supportable, he added. Good luck getting anyone to listen to you about international law after this.
Yeah.
Edward Ahmed Mitchell, Deputy Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, said in a statement, we strongly condemn the Biden administration's unbelievable and unconscionable decision to secretly send hundreds of new 2,000-pound bombs and other weapons to support Benjamin Netanyahu's genocide. Arming a war criminal makes you a war criminal. According to the Post, the 2,000-pound bombs, capable of leveling city blocks and leaving craters in the earth 40 feet across and larger, are almost never used anymore by Western militaries in densely populated locations due to the risk of civilian casualties. Israel has used them extensively in Gaza, according to several reports, most notably in the bombing of Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp October 31st. UN officials decried the strike, which killed more than 100 people, as a disproportionate attack that could amount to war crimes.
Good.
I mean, could amount.
How about does?
Right. Israel defended the bombing, saying it resulted in the death of a Hamas leader.
Okay, that's what they always say. Everything's Hamas. Hamas is all around you, amongst you. It's in your heart. You know, like Jesus. You know what I mean? Ever present.
The Biden administration's arms shipments to Israel continued despite urgent pleas from the United Nations officials, international human rights groups, and some progressive U.S. lawmakers to stop arming Israel's 175-day Gaza onslaught during which Israeli bombs and bullets have killed more than 32,600 Palestinians. More than that, more at this point, really.
Yep.
No, mostly women and children, while wounding over 75,000 others and damaging or destroying hundreds of thousands of homes, schools, hospitals, mosques, and other structures. The International Court of Justice in January found that Israel is plausibly committing genocide in Gaza and ordered the country to prevent genocidal acts. However, Israel has been accused of ignoring the ICJ order, and amid ongoing atrocities, including the forced starvation of Palestinians, the court on Thursday issued another order demanding that Israel allow desperate needed humanitarian aid into Gaza. Which
Another strongly worded letter, you know.
Right.
So,
by the way, they were supposed to send a report back in.
Yes, there was supposed to be like February. A month we would fucking reconvene, right? We remember this. We covered this, and like a month happened, and it's just like, don't worry about it. We'll send another letter, and you get some more time to do what you want. So, I mean, this is what people said, that International Court of Justice is a fucking joke. So, you know, like, you can't really do much with it. So it's nice. It's performative and great. But at the same time...
Well, it's funny. Well, speaking of performative, like, I was... one of my favorite things to do, but from time to time, it is kind of fun. You know, talking to some random person who lives in DC who is a policy nut. What I think an education policy, who basically quote tweeted, I guess, a colleague of his or whatever, who was like basically saying the OP said, you know, Democrats are basically wanting to lose this election. Didn't go into the reasoning why, but that was basically what
I mean, not that they care. It's a win for them either way. That, you know, Trump will do the same shit pretty much. So
and then this guy basically was like, that was a bad tweet. You know, Democrats are doing what they can. You know, the tweet is offensive to activists and organizers who are trying to work to get people in the Democratic Party, blah, blah, blah. And basically, I was like, basically all I said was Gaza. And this cat was like, well, you know, I said, you know, Biden, you have to call it genocide. And through a technicality, this guy was like, he showed me articles where Biden has said he supports the ceasefire. I'm like, yeah,
but that's not the same thing. But let's not. Sure. Anyway,
I can support you getting a Porsche. That doesn't mean you're getting it,
right? Yeah,
you know? Like
lip service is what it's called,
right?
Like,
so basically,
people forgot what normal politicians do. They're so used to politicians being the most terrible, like, possible, that the old smile and wave and kiss a baby politician that's still going to lie to you, like, people forgot existed, and can completely gaslight you the entire time. Like, it's what all the squad is doing. It's what all third-party people are doing too. Sorry, third-party people who are upset at that.
Right, and honestly, it's what a lot of people online are doing. It's trying to gaslight people to think that the Democrats are doing all they can. And I said to this guy, look, if Trump was doing exactly the same thing as Biden is doing, and he probably will, you know, assuming that he's reelected, you know, because the excuse that he gave with Biden was, to me, oh, you do not know international policy.
You don't know.
You are termly
international policy.
You are termly
sir.
online. You're termly online.
Girl,
implying that all I
online. Do, you need to go touch grass.
Well, the implication was,
look at this. See the grass? Like, touching the grass. I'm touching it. Touching the grass. Then I'm going to light it on fire.
Essentially touch grass. And I basically was
grass on fire and be okay.
You know, I told him, look, if Trump was doing what Biden is doing, because he was making the argument that, oh, like, there are limits to what Biden can do like, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if Trump was doing exactly the same shit, you would not be talking about there's limits to what Trump can be doing. You would be calling for his head, you know? And he basically kind of called me from there a liar, that I don't know what I'm talking about, and he blocked my ads for it. Fine, you know, but whatever. I don't know this guy, but it's just the idea. There's still a lot of people, especially in this city, my city, who it's always these policymakers that I meet who always feel like they know more than the rest of us, because they always have the attitude of being like, oh, you know, I've been talking to people who know people who know people who know who are within the administration, and they said that, you know, like they're doing everything that they can to get these policies and blah 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 and yada yada yada. And meanwhile, none of these policies kind of pass. So it's like, who are you talking to that basically knows shit in terms of, you know, what is happening? So
yeah, well, over on the Rumbles, Jack's Page giving us some $5. Hola fam, always love the sparkling conversation. Much love and respect. Appreciate you, Jack's Page. You know,
anyway,
always useful, always appreciated on the couch. But yeah.
Anyway, that was a long aside, but
that's normal for us. Long asides.
But anyway, last December, when the death toll in Gaza stood at approximately 18,000 plus,
yes,
I'll add,
last December,
President Joe Biden implored the far-right government of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop Israel's indiscriminate bombing of Palestinian civilians in the embattled enclave. However, U.S. support for Israel, which already included nearly $4 billion in annual military aid, gotta be faster than that, Reef.
I gotta just put it on the here. You see this? You see this thing right here? You see this? You see this thing? Okay. Look, I can take it, I can move it over here so it's always there, and then that'll fix that. But until then, it's for some reason Stream Deck takes like a second to go through folders. I have a lot of folders of fucking sound bites. I don't know. Like, you know, and I keep adding new ones for some reason. Like, you know.
Which most of them I'm sure you're not going to use more than twice.
We're sorry. We're sorry.
Like, you know. I'm sorry. Sorry.
However, U.S. support for Israel, which already included nearly $4 billion in annual military aid, has continued unabated, with the Biden administration seeking an additional $14.3 million in armed assistance and repeatedly bypassing Congress to fast-track emergency weapons shipments.
Yep.
The U.S. cannot beg Netanyahu to stop bombing civilians one day and the next send him thousands more 2,000-pound bombs that can level entire city blocks. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders said on social media Friday, "This is obscene. We must end our complicity. No more bombs to Israel."
Another strongly worded letter.
Right.
While Senator he's voted for... How much has he voted for? That particular Mr. Sanders? Funded Iron Dome how many times? Funded...
Right.
Like, you can say shit, but you got to walk the walk there, guy. So,
Senator Chris Van Holden, and this is the cat that talked about UNRWA last week, who made the case for it and voted against it when we talked about it last week in the bill that passed in order to keep the government running, told the Post that the Biden administration needs to use the leverage effectively, and in my view, they should receive these basic commitments before green-lighting more bombs for Gaza. We need to back up what we say with what we do. And you haven't, sir, so shut the fuck up.
Yep.
Biden administration officials have claimed they don't have any leverage over Israel. Okay. Drawing ridicule from observers who point to the indispensable military and diplomatic support the U.S. provides. The staggering death and destruction wrought by Israel's assault on Gaza has drawn criticism from even staunch members of the key U.S. ally.
Who?
Oh, what happened?
I don't know.
It just
there it goes.
Out. Okay, so
weird.
So Nicholas Kristof tweeted, "Really, POTUS, with Gaza facing starvation and Netanyahu defying you over Rafah, you ship billions of dollars in additional weapons to Israel, including 2,000-pound bombs without end-use restrictions. BB is rolling you."
Oh my God!
So this is from the Washington Post article that Brett referenced. So this leads into the viral story. So Biden sends more bombs and planes. Monday, from Jake Johnson, also from Common Dreams, Israeli airstrike kills 7 World Central Kitchen workers. This is not only an attack against WCK, this is an attack on humanitarian organizations showing up in the most dire situations where food is being used as a weapon of war, said the AIDS group's CEO. So Jake continues. World Central Kitchen said yesterday that a targeted Israeli strike killed 7 members of its aid team in Gaza as they left a warehouse in the city of I'm going to butcher these cities, Deir al-Baha, where they just unloaded more than 100 tons of food set to be distributed to starving Palestinians. The Washington, D.C. based aid organization said the 7 killed, including a dual citizen of the U.S. and Canada, as well as Australian, Polish, and British nationals, and 1 Palestinian staffer later identified as Saif Abdul Taha. This is not only an attack against WCK, this is an attack on humanitarian organizations showing up in the most dire situations where food is being used as a weapon of war. This is unforgivable, said World Central Kitchen CEO Erin Dorr. The 7 so we read that already. I am heartbroken and appalled that we, World Central Kitchen and the world, lost beautiful lives today because of a targeted attack by the IDF. The love they had for feeding people, the determination they embodied to show that humanity rises above all, and the impact they made in countless lives will forever be remembered and cherished, said Erin. The IDF said it's carrying out an in-depth examination at the highest levels to understand the circumstances of this tragic incident. All that in quotations for those of you who are listening. While Central Kitchen is pausing our operations immediately in the region, we will be making decisions about the future of our work soon. So Jay continues, WCK said its convoy of vehicles, including 2 armored cars branded with the group's logo, was hit by an Israeli strike while traveling in what was supposed to be a deconflicted zone. The group said it was coordinating the convoy's movements with the IDF, leading WCK to conclude that the attack was not an accident. So actually, if you can zoom in, and then we'll play the video in a second. So this is a tweet from the Middle East Eye. We've referenced them before. They're all dead. After Israeli killed 7 aid workers in airstrikes targeting the convoy, transporting them in Deir al-Baha, a local Palestinian man identified the deceased as being staff from the World Central Kitchen organization. And I'm not going to read the nationalities since we did. The Australian government has confirmed that La Mawazi Zomi Francom, its citizen, was among those killed in the airstrike. So this is kind of graphic. It is censored. So if you need, so actually there's a video there.
No, there's not.
No? Okay, never mind.
Can you see me the tweet? I guess I can look for it.
Yeah, I thought I did. Oh, you know what? I think I didn't
add the thing in.
I didn't add the clip. There was a ton of clips that I added, and I guess that was one.
I'll get it. Hold on.
So while you're doing that, I'll read another slide. The IDF pledged to carry out an in-depth examination at the highest levels, a promise that, given the Israeli military's record, is likely to prove empty. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Tuesday that the strike unintentionally hit innocent people, but Haaretz reported that the attack was launched because of suspicion that a terrorist was traveling with the convoy, an indication that the strike itself, targeting vehicles carrying aid workers, was intentional. So I have a conspiracy theory here.
Okay.
Here's what I think. Because remember, one of the people within the convoy was Palestinian.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably were like, oh, Palestinian, Hamas, they're up to cahoots, let's bomb this.
They would have said that by now, because that's what they always say, is that Hamas was there.
It'd be one thing if they said that, but I think the difference is because there were other countries involved. If the person was alone, that would be one thing. But because they're from other countries, they made the association, oh, this person cannot be Hamas. So that's why they're not saying that. But again, that's just a theory of mine, but that's kind of why I suspect, given that one of the people within the group was Palestinian. Did you find it?
I'm scrolling still through Middle East Eyes the page.
Okay.
I'm sure it's close, unless I've somehow gone too far. But
I don't think we don't need to worry about that for now.
Okay.
Honestly, so we can keep going.
Cool.
So if you don't mind zooming in this slide, please.
Yep.
So Tyler Pop also tweeted, "This was no mistake. 3 vehicles from World Central Kitchen, WCK, were targeted, with the first and last being over 2.4 kilometers apart. The IDF decided to make 3 deliberate targeted strikes. The second car was bombed after it rescued the survivors of the first. The third after it was rescued the survivors of the second." So essentially what happened, there were 3 cars within this convoy. They bombed the first. Then the survivors moved to the second, bombed that one.
Yeah.
They moved to the third and bombed the rest. So that seems pretty calculated to me in terms of it being a mistake, according to the idea. Okay, so you got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So as I said, this is a little graphic, but it is censored. It is blurred out. I think it's about a minute long. So if you can't watch it or hear it, take a short break and come back within the next minute or so. But for everyone else, here we go. Is there any sound?
You have sound?
I don't hear it.
Okay, here.
If there is sound.
I know what happened. I forgot to do this. No. Oh. This one. Yeah. Cool. Here, I'll back it up.
Yeah. So those aid workers identified upon arrival to hospital after Israeli airstrike on convoy.
The ones who brought the aid in through the sea, they're all dead. These are the World Central Kitchen organizers. The foreigners, all of them. All of them are here at Alaska. Marcus. Saif, oh God, Saif.
You can say their passports.
Yeah.
On top of their body bags. So yeah.
Well, despicable shit.
So, right. So, Jesus.
Yeah.
Wait, move, damn it.
Move. Get out the way. Here.
I'm clicking, but not
Last
moving.
night,
Oh, wait.
an incident.
Here we Wait, okay.
Yeah, you just clicked one too many times. That was where you at. There you go. I added this.
So, okay. So Dan Cohen also tweeted, several years ago, while I was covering an Israeli military trade expo, a drone company representative boasted to me that their cameras can identify a Nike symbol on a shoe. Today, the Israeli terror regime wants us to believe that drone striking these clearly marked vehicles was an accident. They are genocidal liars. So if you scroll down, you can clearly see
marked all
World
over
Central
that
Kitchen marked all over, or at least that's a roof, at least on top of the roof.
Yeah.
So, and in other pictures, you can see that the
whole car's
logo is covered
everywhere, wrapped completely. You know.
Jay continues, the Israeli military has repeatedly attacked aid workers with impunity in recent months, killing staffers of United Nations agencies, the International Red Cross and Red Crescent, Doctors Without Borders, and other organizations. WCK is known for coordinating emergency food relief in disaster zones around the world. The group has collected and delivered hundreds of tons of food in Gaza in recent weeks as famine has spread across the enclave due to the Israeli government's blockade. So this one is from the IOF, the devils themselves. This is their hack who spoke about this murder. And again, I'm saying as it is a murder. So you could play this.
Last night, an incident took place in Gaza that resulted in the tragic death of World Central Kitchen employees.
We're
as
sorry.
They fulfilled their vital mission
We're
of
sorry.
bringing food to people in need.
We're sorry.
As a professional military committed to international law, we are committed to examining our operations thoroughly and transparently. I just spoke to WCK founder, Chef Jose Anders, and expressed the deepest condolences of Israel Defense Forces to the families and the entire World Central Kitchen family. We also express sincere sorrow to our allied nations who have been doing and continue to do so much to assist those in need. We have been reviewing the incident in the highest levels to understand the circumstances of what happened and how it happened.
We
will be opening a probe to examine this serious incident further. This will help us reduce the risk of such an event from occurring again. The incident will be investigated in the fact-finding and assessment mechanism, an independent professional and expert body. For the last few months, the IDF has been working closely with the World Central Kitchen to assist them in fulfilling their noble mission of helping bring food and humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza.
Don't lie.
WCK also came to help Israelis after the massacre of October 7th. They were one of the first NGOs here. The work of WCK is critical. They are the front lines of
WCK?
humanity. We will get to the bottom of this and we will share our findings transparently.
Right. Yep. I couldn't have said it better myself. So yeah, that's the wooden response from the idea that just sounded so fake.
Yes.
So, all right. So I'm sorry to do this to y'all, but the following slides is just going to be a whole lot of fuck shit from our leaders, as well as we got some from overseas as well. So this is Kirby. Yeah, this is John Kirby, who was questioned about this incident. And here's this sniveling bitch and hear what he has to say in regards
to how can the U.S. continue to send aid to Israel without any conditions? Yes, they have a right.
We're not sending aid to Israel. We're sending aid into Gaza, and that's.
Weapons. How can the U.S. continue to send military aid
military
to
assistance
Israel without any conditions? Is there no red line?
We've had this discussion, you and me, quite a bit from up here.
Yeah, so fucking pay attention.
They're still under a viable threat of Hamas. We're still going to make sure that they can defend themselves, and that 7th of October doesn't happen again. That doesn't mean that it's a free pass, that we look the other way when something like this happens, or that we aren't and haven't since the beginning of the conflict urged the Israelis to be more precise, to be more careful, and quite frankly to increase the amount of humanitarian assistance that gets in. I haven't been asked about it yet, but I expected I would be. There was a discussion just yesterday with our Israeli counterparts about Rafah. Now, this one was done virtually. We expect there'll be an in-person meeting here in a week's time or so. But the whole reason to have that meeting was to talk about our concerns over a major ground operation in Rafah and to present viable alternatives for them to be more precise and more targeted. So the idea that we're some plastic graveyard here, and we're not paying attention to the civilian casualties or the civilian suffering is just not true.
Right, but these are verbal urgings, verbal commitments. There's no other incentive besides the urging.
I know you want us to hang some sort of condition over their neck, and what I'm telling you is that we continue to work with the Israelis to make sure that they are as precise as they can be, and that more aid's getting in, and we're going to continue to take that approach.
Can you go fuck yourself?
Yep. Yep. So that's Kirby.
So how can the U.S. continue?
What a fucking asshole, yeah.
So we're going to go to Blinken next.
Oh, God,
so
okay.
He was also asked about this. So we're going to listen to his bullshit.
Yep.
Secretary, as the leader of the U.S. Department that has approved the transfer of the vast majority of the Israeli bombs dropped in this conflict, do events like the bombing of the World Central Kitchen convoy give you pause about continuing the flood of U.S. weapons into Israel?
And with regard to arm transfers, look, I think it's very important to put this in its proper perspective and to understand what we're talking about. First, we have a long-standing commitment to Israel's security and to helping ensure its ability to defend itself. That's been a policy from administration to administration, Republican, Democrat, back and forth. And indeed, that policy developed over many years, developed into successive agreements between the United States and Israel, long duration agreements, 10 years in this case, to provide military assistance over that time frame to about $3 billion a year. That's the system that's in place, and it's long been in place. These arms transfers, every single one, happens consistent with statutory and policy requirements. That includes both informal and formal notifications to Congress, and it's what we do with every country with whom we have a defense relationship that involves the sale or transfer of arms. We've been focused on trying to make sure that October 7th can never happen again. But having said that, the security relationship we have with Israel is not just about Gaza, Hamas, October 7th.
What is it then?
It's also about the threats posed to Israel by Hezbollah, by Iran, by various other actors in the region.
We'll get to that later tonight.
Each one of which has vowed, one way or another, to try to destroy Israel. So the weapons, the systems that Israel has sought to acquire And as
they
I said,
vowed to destroy
have been contracted
Palestine, homie.
in many cases over many, many years, go to self-defense. They go to deterrence, trying to avoid more conflicts. They go to replenish.
What about the Palestinian right to self-defense? What about that? Huh?
Right.
Shut up, bitch!
One more, and so we're going to go a little international in the next one. So I forgot.
Mr. Secretary, as the leader of
no,
but quiet.
There you go.
So we're going to go to Australia now.
Oh, yeah.
We'll probably won't play the whole thing. But as you can see, they got their talking points. They got this script from the U.S.
Yeah.
to Israel,
What
and
is he
now
go-
to Australia.
Is he going to give the same October 7th line? Like the same exact line?
Let's find out.
Prime Minister, welcome to 7:30.
Good to be with you, Sarah.
Have you spoken to Zomi's family?
I have spoken to Zomi's brother. They are, of course, devastated by this news. This is just an extraordinary tragedy. It's one that they certainly weren't expecting. Zomi knew the risks, but when you're there providing aid and support and doing such extraordinarily good work, you don't expect that to happen.
Were you able to tell her family any more information about exactly what happened?
Well, we are awaiting further details to occur. We have, of course, contacted and spoken with the Israeli government, and we expect full accountability for this tragedy. To have aid workers, not just from Australia but other nations as well, going about their business of assisting in the most humanitarian way their fellow global citizens, in this case the people of Gaza, who are suffering from incredible deprivation. To have them killed in this way is completely unacceptable. The targeting of these people is just a tragedy.
Let me just ask you about the word you just used, which is targeting. Do you have any information that suggests the vehicle was targeted?
Well, what we know is that the vehicle was hit, and we know as well that governments are responsible for actions that take place, and this is completely unacceptable. We await the details and we await a full explanation, but we want, as the Australian government, accountability for what has occurred to this Australian citizen.
So, as we know, as yet unconfirmed, but of course reported that the vehicle was struck by the Israeli Defence Force. Can you tell me what questions are you specifically asking the Israelis to answer?
Well, the Israeli Defence Force at this point have not confirmed that. So we want an explanation and full accountability of what has occurred here. I think that is the least that can be expected from Zomi's family and indeed from Australia for this to have occurred.
Now, from the beginning of the war, the Israeli government and the IDF have maintained that they are very careful in the way that they arrive at targeting decisions. Does this mean that, as well as everything else that we've seen in the past few months, but in relation to this specific event, should we not believe that assertion?
Well, we await the explanation, and I don't want to preempt that. But what we know as well is that the whole world is responding to what is being witnessed in Gaza. The extraordinary number of casualties of civilians. Quite clearly, a majority of those people who've lost their lives in Gaza aren't Hamas fighters, they're innocent civilians. And that's why we saw the extraordinary action of the UN Security Council just last week. That's why myself and the Prime Minister of Canada and New Zealand have issued 2 statements. There's been the Melbourne Declaration from the ASEAN Summit, and increasingly we have raised our concern about the humanitarian impact of what is occurring in Gaza. We raised that very explicitly about the declaration that Rafah would be attacked with a ground offensive, what the implications of that are for the civilian populations, and we continue to make our views clear because we are concerned that this conflict is seeing innocent lives lost. We declared, of course, our unequivocal opposition to what occurred in October 7 with Hamas, but all innocent lives matter, whether they're Israeli or Palestinian.
Let me just ask you this. If it turns out that the Israeli Defence Force did hit this vehicle, which according to the aid organisation was carrying identifying insignia, what actions will you take?
Well, I don't want to preempt.
No.
Today's a day.
I wouldn't want to preempt anything.
We mourn this fine Australian who has a record of helping out her fellow citizens, whether it be internationally or whether it be through the support that she gave during the bushfires that occurred during that Black Summer. She is someone who clearly was concerned about her fellow humanity and someone who put her principles into action. And this is such a tragic loss for her family, but it's a loss for our nation as well.
If it is the Israelis, doesn't this underline the indiscriminate nature of the Israelis' bombing campaign?
Well, we have made very clear from the first resolution that was carried in this Parliament with the support of both the major parties that international humanitarian law must be applied, that all innocent lives matter. We've also raised concern, not just our condemnation of the October 7 terrorist attacks, but our concern about justice for Palestinians. Both Israelis and Palestinians have a right to live in peace and security and to be able to prosper. And that's why we have consistently said we want a political solution, and that requires two states in the region, one for Israelis and one for Palestinians.
Just on this matter, I mean, what kind of response did you get from the Israelis? Do you expect them to be forthcoming with answers?
Well, we would hope that they are. Australia has, of course, a
fucking journalist is
relationship with Israel. And
trying to put it on them.
And did the Foreign Minister speak to the Israeli ambassador today, and what did he say?
The Israeli ambassador isn't well today. There had been calls put in by the Foreign Minister to her counterpart, and I have put in a request to Prime Minister Netanyahu as well to speak with him directly.
But you haven't spoken to him yet?
No.
Is it time for Australia to change its position on the war in Gaza? Are you calling now for an immediate ceasefire?
Well, we have called for a humanitarian ceasefire and a sustainable ceasefire.
Yeah, dude,
we welcomed the response of the UN Security Council
WCK
just last week.
If I may say, you said that a moment ago. I just want to know whether you're prepared to shift Australia's position, not describing the need for a ceasefire, but to actually calling for an immediate ceasefire.
Well, we have called for ceasefires. We've voted that way in the United Nations, and we've put out statements calling for that way. But it must be sustainable. You don't want a ceasefire and then it to recommence in just a short period of time. The hostages have to be released as well.
People are calling for a permanent
and we need a path to a sustainable peace in the region.
Let me ask you a question from the Australian end of the story, which is Green Senator today, Marine Faruqi, says this attack is a direct result of the continued support provided by the Australian government to Israel. Let me put the question like this. Are there any limits to Australia's support for Israel's right to defend itself?
We have very clearly said Israel, like other states, have a right to defend itself, but how it defends itself matters. We've said that from the very beginning.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, word salad? Yummy, yummy.
I mean, Australian version.
Yes. Yep.
It's one thing to hear it from Israelis and Americans, but it's another to hear it from, Australians. That was a little treat for y'all. But so let's start wrapping this up. So I want to bring this. These are the people that were killed.
Yeah.
No, these were the people that were murdered. Okay, so you get to see their last moments before their demise.
Hey, this is Zomi and Chef Olivier. We're at the Jirabala kitchen, and we've got the mise en place. Tell us a little bit about it, Chef Ollie.
This is the mise en place to cook the rice. So we have all the spices for boil the water. Be ready for put the boiling water inside the rice. This is the stir fry with oil. We stir fry onions. We have the spices, and after stir frying the rice, we add the water. The water is aromatized with these spices, this mix of spices. There is black lemon, there is some chili, there is 7 mix of spices, bay leaf, salt, pepper, and tomato paste.
Indeed. So this is the beautiful, fragrant, aromatic rice that will be served today from Jirabala kitchen. Thank you.
And they're no longer with us. So,
no.
You know.
Hey, this is.
So this will probably be a good way to kind of end. This will kind of lead into your, well, close to the end.
Yeah.
So, this is from Chef Jose, who tweeted, "Today, WCK Kitchen lost several of our sisters and brothers in an IDF airstrike in Gaza. I am heartbroken and grieving for their families and friends and our whole WCK family. These are people, angels, I served alongside in Ukraine, Gaza, Turkey, Morocco, Bahamas, Indonesia. They are not faceless. They are not nameless. The Israeli government needs to stop this indiscriminate killing. It needs to stop to restricting humanitarian aid, stop killing civilians and aid workers, and stop using food as a weapon. No more innocent lives lost. Peace starts with our shared humanity. It needs to start now." Actually, we did that already. You added this, right?
Yep. So
Okay,
this is from Haaretz down here. Again, Israel-Hamas war, right? IDF chief apologizes for unintentional killing of WCK aid workers, right? Jax Page responds, "They are admitting it. No one is buying unintentional. They hit them 3 times. Saying sorry doesn't bring back the lives of these volunteers in a clearly marked vehicle. Israel had their coordinates."
Right.
So, yeah. Medhurst, Western officials use the World Central Kitchen issue to distract from Israel's outrageous bombing of Iran's embassy in Damascus, a scandalous violation of the Vienna and Geneva Conventions. They know Israel killed the WCK staff on purpose and don't care. So, yeah, we'll get to that in our last story tonight, but definitely wanted to get Richie in there. But yeah, I think you got a bit of this to finish up.
Yeah. Adrian Watson, a spokesperson for the U.S. National Security Council, said the Biden White House is heartbroken and deeply troubled by the strike. But I read in Politico just earlier on my way home, I heard this, but he's also said, I ain't doing shit.
Yeah.
So can't be that heartbroken. Humanitarian aid workers must be protected as they deliver aid that is desperately needed, and we urge Israel to swiftly investigate what happened, she added. Again, you're going to be waiting forever.
Yep.
This is from Zaid Jelani. This is probably the first time Biden has personally called someone who knew victims of Israeli attacks, and there's a reason for that. Jose Andres is a prominent figure in DC culture and Democratic Party circles. He is not an Arab American whose cousin was sniped. So, just give some context. They love this guy in the White House. Like, they basically go to his restaurants all the time. So the idea that this is personal. So this should really be, honestly, the straw that breaks the camel's back for Biden. But as I said, according to the reports I've seen today, he said he's not going to change his policy in regards to what's happening in Israel. So can be that heartbroken.
Yeah.
I think I have one more slide. So holding Biden at push Biden left. Yeah, right. Said,
how's that going?
It's wrong. It's illegal. It's costing him the election, and it just never stops. So bringing it back to the first story by Brett, Biden quietly signs off on more bombs. They definitely use them, and now international citizens have met their demise. Israel says sorry, and nothing happens. The end.
Yep. Well, you know, talking about this is why we're demonetized. I just here to tell you, you know, you can always, you know, support us in other ways by going to ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. If you don't want to go through YouTube, you can scan that QR code right there, get us a super chat, or you can, if you're in the live chat, you can put !donate and get the link to that as well. If you can't give monetarily, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the share button, leave a comment, let us know what you think.